One of the most horrific things I've ever seen in the whole time I was a policeman, and nothing compares to it, to that murder scene.
Manson family spread terror across Southern California. It started with the murders of actress Sharon Tate and her house guests in Benedict Canyon.
Almost 55 years ago, Hollywood experienced an unimaginable tragedy. 4 bodies, an unborn child, a rising star, and a cult operating from the shadows. The murder of Sharon Tate was a mystery that struck fear into the hearts of movie directors and actors everywhere. Her murderer, a crazed man who would simply not hear the word no and left a trail of bodies in his wake. In this video, we explore the grim events of that fateful night, the motivations behind the murders, and the far-reaching consequences that followed this senseless act of violence. In 1969, Sharon was more than just a rising star. She was on the brink of something big. The year before, she had earned a Golden Globe nomination and was gaining serious attention in the film world. Off-screen, she was happily married to director Roman Polanski and 8 months pregnant with their first child.
Ripped the door open and said, "Sharon's dead." And it didn't make sense to me, and I thought, I'm not hearing things correctly. And then she collapsed to the floor, and I went, oh my God, this is real.
In the early hours after midnight, inside the Los Angeles home she shared with her husband, director Roman Polanski, Sharon and 4 others were brutally murdered. Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, and Stephen Parent. The sickening part, none of these people had the faintest idea about the horrors that awaited them that night. Earlier that evening, Sharon had gone out to dinner with friends at her favorite spot, El Coyote Cafe, a popular Mexican restaurant in LA. She returned home to Sebring, 35, Tate's ex-boyfriend and a hairstylist. Meanwhile, Frykowski was a friend of Polanski's and a guest at the couple's house. Folger was the heir to the Folgers' coffee fortune and had connections to both men. She was dating Frykowski and a loyal investor in Sebring's salons. The 5th victim of the night, the parent, was only 18. He had no connections to any of these people. He had simply dropped by to meet William Garretson, the caretaker, at the Cielo Drive guest house. The 5 went about their day like usual, carrying out the responsibilities of their life, and tucked in the safety of their home to rest up for another day. However, little did they know about the 3 members of the Manson family, Charles Tex Watson, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Susan Atkins, sneaking onto the property shortly after midnight. Together with Linda Kasabian, who served as the lookout, these 3 would drastically alter the lives of everyone in the house and their loved ones.
Bent down to check her out to see if she was still alive. I thought, this is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life.
However, the gruesome nightmare that unfolded within those 4 walls had been set into motion one day earlier. On August 8, Charles had ordered Watson to go to the house and, in his own words, kill everyone there as gruesomely as he could. But why go to such lengths? Why commit such a heinous crime against people who had seemingly done nothing wrong? Well, Manson had a connection to the property. It once belonged to music producer Terry Melcher, who had turned Manson down for a recording deal. For Melcher, it had been another day in the office, but for Manson, that rejection set him down a destructive path. That night, as the group approached the estate, they encountered their first victim, 18-year-old Stephen, who had just finished visiting the caretaker in the guest house. Without hesitation, Watson shot Parent dead in his car. The attackers then broke into the main house and forced everyone inside to gather in the living room. What followed was pure horror. The police had different accounts of what went down, but Atkins' chilling courtroom testimony cleared up all confusion. After claiming the life of the first victim, the group gathered everyone in the lounge. Watson then proceeded to shoot Sebring mercilessly and tied Sebring and Tate's necks together with a rope. Atkins recalled on the stand, they kept saying, "Please don't hurt us. "We won't tell the police." Frykowski kept pulling at my hair, and I was fighting for my life, and I was swinging my knife, and I felt it sink into something, and I didn't know what it was. One by one, the victims were stabbed repeatedly. Finally, Atkins turned her attention to Sharon, stabbing her multiple times despite her pleas to spare the life of her unborn child. Before leaving the premises, Atkins wrote "Piggy" on the white front door with Tate's blood. Atkins failed to testify about how many times she stabbed Tate, but Dr. Thomas T. Noguchi, the Los Angeles County coroner, counted. According to him, Tate had been stabbed a total of 16 times. 8 times in her back, twice in her upper right arm, and once in her right thigh. She was also slashed twice on her left forearm, which seemed to be superficial wounds. However, Tate's suffering didn't end when she was stabbed 16 times. Dr. Noguchi testified that Tate was still alive when the Manson followers went ahead and hung her and Sebring over a beam in the house's living room. The hanging left the actress with rope burns on her face and neck. She died shortly after.
The way it was staged, with the ropes around Sharon Tate's neck and the other one around Jay Sebring's neck, it baffles me. It really does. I can't understand why any person would do anything, would kill for another person for no reason.
According to Dr. Noguchi, it is quite consistent, in my opinion, that Miss Tate was hanged. My opinion was, and my opinion is still the same, that the cause of death was multiple stab wounds, front and back, penetrating the heart and lungs and causing massive hemorrhaging. According to Atkins, Tate begged for her life and her unborn son. She offered herself as a hostage to the group and asked to be spared until she gave birth. Atkins confirmed the horrific detail in her testimony. She said, "Please don't kill me," and I told her to shut up. And I threw her down on the couch. She said, "Please let me have my baby." Then Tex came in, and he said, "Kill her," and I killed her. I just stabbed her, and she fell, and I stabbed her again. I don't know how many times. I don't know why I stabbed her. That said, the nightmare didn't end inside the house. In the midst of the turmoil, Frykowski and Folger had run out of the front door of the house, but the hope of escaping that carnage was short-lived. Their attackers caught up to them on the front lawn, where both Frykowski and Folger were brutally stabbed to death. With 5 bodies and a gnarly crime scene, the 4 culprits made their escape, leaving open Pandora's box for the authorities. Bob Burbridge was one of the first police officers on the scene, and, in his own words, it's a case that still keeps him up. However, despite the hours the LAPD would spend pouring into dissecting that crime scene, they wouldn't have any leads. In fact, they would find themselves staring at a mystery. Why? Well, because the bloodshed didn't end that night. The very next evening, on August 10th, Charles personally led another group of his followers, this time including Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Linda Kasabian, and Stephen Clem Grogan, on another mission of terror. Their new targets, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, an unsuspecting married couple living in Los Angeles. Just like before, the group left behind a trail of bodies and a horrifying crime scene.
The owner of a small supermarket chain found in his home his head covered by a white hood, a meat fork stuck in his chest. His wife, 38-year-old Mrs. Leno LaBianca, found in the bedroom dead, her back brutally cut by a whip.
The authorities were clueless. To them, this seemed like the work of a drug organization. But as the months went by, the police would uncover the truth. The first big breakthrough came in October 1969, when several members of the Manson family were arrested for unrelated crimes. Manson and his group of followers may have been merciless, but they were no masterminds. During their time behind bars, Susan made the mistake of boasting about her involvement in the Tate murders, which led to the group's unbecoming. More importantly, the authorities found a key piece of evidence that would crack open the entire case: fingerprints. Sergeant Harold J. Dolan, a police fingerprint expert, stepped in and told the court that the prints found at the Benedict Canyon mansion matched those of Patricia Krenwinkel and Charles D. Watson. His testimony placed the two at the crime scene and helped point the authorities in the right direction.
Who told Watson et al. To go commit those murders?
The lawyers.
Okay, well, we're not going to go anywhere on that.
All right, well, you want me to explain it? It's a simple thing.
What is the simple thing?
Everybody that's a crook learns this, that you cannot trust a lawyer.
Okay.
Especially a criminal lawyer. You can't trust.
Oh, so you're saying the defense lawyers did it?
No, I'm saying if we had a place to go, we wouldn't have to go to violence. But when you got no place to go, and your children can't find a father in your system, and you lay down and you say, can I get some help? And they won't give you no help. And you get stepped on in the face, and then pretty soon you say, well, what can we do here?
And just like that, the police had enough evidence to put Manson and his cult of followers on trial. The star witness for the prosecution was Linda Kasabian, who had been granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. Her inside account of the murders painted a chilling picture of life under Manson's control. Throughout the trial, Manson frequently disrupted proceedings, often with outbursts, threats, and strange behavior.
How comes the court shirked and turned their backs on me and wouldn't give me my rights?
They gave you your rights.
Rights in what direction? I didn't even get to put on defense.
Yeah.
But the jury was not easily fooled. In January 1971, Charles Manson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten were found guilty of murder. Tex Watson was tried separately and convicted later that same year. All were sentenced to death. But in 1972, just a year later, California abolished the death penalty, and so they were, in fact, confined to a life in prison. Over the decades, all of them became eligible for parole, but their requests were repeatedly denied, for their crimes did not warrant leniency. Though the people responsible for cutting short Sharon's life had been brought to justice, the after effects of that gruesome murder could be felt for years to come. Photographer Julian Wasser, who took pictures of the crime scene, recalled that Tate's murder was the end of an era in Hollywood. He said, "It wasn't like it is now. There were no paparazzi, no VIP sections, no security. It was a really innocent time. You'd just walk up, and there they were. They'd stop and smile and pose. Now, it's a business. If you want exclusive access to a celebrity, you have to pay big money. You weren't considered some sort of psychotic menace who was going to rob or kill them either. Now, they'll call their security person and you'll get beat up." However, no one felt the weight of the tragedy more than Polanski. He was still in London when Tate was murdered. His friend, Andy Bronsberg, was with him when he got the call about her death. According to Bronsberg, he literally unraveled in front of my eyes. Later on, Polanski revealed that he was under severe scrutiny until Tate's real killers were found. He said, "The way people see me, my image, did indeed start to form with Sharon Tate's death. When it happened, even though I was already going through a terrible time, the press got hold of the tragedy and, unsure how to deal with it, covered it in the most despicable way, implying, among other things, that I was one of the people responsible for her murder against a background of Satanism."
Do you hate certain members of the press for the way you were treated after your wife's murder?
Well, yes, to be honest, I do, but I wouldn't call it a hatred now. You see, somehow evolved to just indifference, and I simply don't read it and try to avoid it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Tate's murder left a permanent scar on the entertainment industry. Her story became a symbol, not just of lost potential, but of the absolute horror that some people were capable of. Still, decades later, her legacy lives on, and the horrors of those nights are never forgotten. And that's all for today. What aspect of the case haunts you the most? Do you think Manson and his cult followers got their due punishment? Let us know in the comment section below. And make sure to leave a like and check out other videos from our channel.